Ancient Egypt, renowned for its iconic pyramids and awe-inspiring pharaohs, possessed a social structure as intricate as the hieroglyphics that adorned its mountains. Within this complex tapestry of roles for both men and women, one facet that piques our curiosity is the institution of concubinage. While the grandeur of the pyramids and the might of the pharaohs have often taken center stage, it's the story of the concubines that offer a fascinating glimpse into the hidden corridors of power, influence, and personal relationships in this remarkable civilization. Hello and welcome. Today we're delving into a captivating topic, the concubines of ancient Egypt. If you're intrigued by the mysterious world of ancient history, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. Let us begin. Concubines played diverse roles in the households they were a part of. While some concubines were companions and had romantic or sexual relationships with their masters, others served as caregivers, nurses, or even advisors to the royal family. Their functions were as diverse as the women themselves, reflecting the complexity of the ancient Egyptian society. Some concubines were chosen for their beauty and personality. They served as intimate companions to the pharaoh or other elite men. These relationships could be romantic and loving, and in some cases, they even led to the birth of children who might inherit power or privileges. Another significant role of concubines was as caregivers and nurses. Many of them were responsible for raising and looking after the royal children, including the future heirs to the throne. Their role in the upbringing of these children was crucial, as they were often the closest maternal figures to these children. In some instances, concubines rose to become trusted advisors to the pharaoh or other high-ranking officials. Their close proximity to the centers of power allowed them to gain influence and offer guidance on matters of state. Their wisdom and intelligence were valued, and their insights were often sought by those in power. Beyond their personal relationships and advisory roles, concubines played an important part in various ceremonies and rituals. They often participated in religious rituals and state functions, symbolizing the connection between the divine and the earthly realm. Some concubines were foreign women brought into the harem, and their presence served a dual purpose. They not only added an exotic dimension to the royal household, but also played a role in diplomatic relations between Egypt and other nations. Marriages with foreign concubines could help solidify alliances and establish peaceful relationships with neighboring powers. Many of the concubines were known for their artistic and intellectual talents. They were skilled in forms of art such as music and dancing. Their talents added to the cultural richness of the royal court. Some even composed poetry, further enriching Egypt's cultural heritage. From managing households to organizing social events, concubines often played a role in the day-to-day affairs of the palace. They could be involved in overseeing the logistics of daily life, ensuring the smooth running of the royal household. However, it's important to note that while concubines held roles of power and influence, others had more challenging and less enviable positions within the harem. The lives of concubines were as diverse as the society they lived in, ranging from privilege and prestige to servitude and subordination. Their experiences were shaped by the whims and desires of the rulers they served and the ever-evolving social and political landscape of ancient Egypt. Now let's delve deeper into the intriguing relationship between concubines and pharaohs in ancient Egypt. The dynamic between pharaohs and their concubines was a multifaceted aspect of Egyptian society, providing us with valuable insights into the culture of the time. Pharaohs often maintained a harem, which was a carefully curated group of women who served as concubines or secondary wives. The harem was a distinct part of the royal household. It was a place of luxury and opulence, and it played a crucial role in the pharaoh's life and the governance of the kingdom. The pharaoh held significant power and authority in ancient Egypt, and this extended to his choices of companions within the harem. It was entirely at his prerogative to select women to become concubines. This selection process was often influenced by various factors, including the woman's beauty, charm, intelligence, or even political considerations. Within the harem, there was a hierarchical structure. Some concubines enjoyed more privileged positions than others. Those who were the pharaoh's favorite received more featured attention. These women had the potential to bear his children and in some cases even ascend to the status of a great royal wife. The relationships between the pharaoh and his concubines went beyond personal sphere. Some of the women in the harem held significant political influence. They could use their proximity to the pharaoh to advance their own interests or advocate for particular policies. Their voices were sometimes sought in state matters. Of course, one of the essential roles of concubines was to bear children, especially male heirs. In a society where the continuity of the royal bloodline was of utmost importance, the birth of an heir was a momentous event. An heir born to a concubine had the potential to inherit the throne, although they ought to face fierce competition from the children of the great royal wife. The complex and ever-changing relationships between pharaohs and their concubines provide a window into the intricate tapestry of life in ancient Egypt. They illustrate the intersections of personal desire, political strategy, and cultural traditions in one of the most fascinating civilizations in history. As we already discussed, concubines in ancient Egypt occupied a unique social position that granted them a certain degree of privilege, though it was a status that came with its own complexities and challenges. Let us take a look on the daily life and the status of these women within the grand palaces and elite households of ancient Egypt. Concubines enjoyed a lifestyle that set them apart from the common women of their time. They had access to numerous perks, one of which was comfortable living quarters. This kind of accommodation was designed for their convenience, with spacious rooms adorned with lavish decorations. Their elevated status was reflected in the clothing and adornments they wore. Concubines often donned luxurious garments made of linen and exquisite jewelry. Their attire symbolized their status and enhanced their beauty, making them stand out in the court of the pharaoh. Some concubines were privileged with access to education and training. This education was not only focused on domestic and courtly duties but could extend to literature, music, and art. These women were groomed to not only be companions, but also intellectually and culturally enriched individuals. This made them more valuable to their masters and contributed to their influence. They even had personal attendants who catered to their needs and ensured their comfort. They had servants who helped them with dressing and grooming as well as day-to-day tasks. These attendants made their lives more comfortable and allowed them to focus on their roles and duties. Their presence was often required at various court events. They played a role in enhancing the grandeur of these occasions, and their charm was used to impress foreign visitors. While concubines enjoyed a relatively elevated status, their lives weren't without difficulties. The competition and rivalries within the harem were ever present. Jealousies and power struggles could emerge among the women who vied for the pharaoh's favor, the thing that would create a hostile atmosphere within the palace. Their daily lives were marked by complex interpersonal dynamics. Their unique role in the harem added to the rich tapestry of Egyptian civilization, showcasing the intricate relationships between power and cultural practices. However, beyond the facade of glamour and luxury, the practice of concubinage in ancient Egypt was marked by a series of challenges and controversies, as well as great many difficulties concubines had to navigate through during their lifelong service in the harem. While they had an elevated status compared to common women, they were still in a vulnerable position. Their status depended entirely on the pharaoh's choices. They could be easily dismissed or replaced at his discretion. They lived in a constant state of uncertainty as they were subject to the whims of the ruler. As we trace the trajectory of concubinage in ancient Egypt, it becomes evident that this practice did not persist indefinitely. Over time, the institution of concubinage underwent significant changes and eventually faded into obscurity. The reasons for its decline offer valuable insights into the evolution of Egyptian society. One of the primary reasons for the decline was the evolution of social norms. As Egyptian society advanced, attitudes towards women began to change. Women gained more recognition and rights, and their roles within the family and society expanded. This shift in societal values contributed to the decreased prominence of concubines in the royal court. Another reason is the role of the great royal wife. The principal wife of the pharaoh started to gain prominence over time. The great royal wife became a central figure in the court and held considerable influence in both political and religious matters. As her influence grew, the need for numerous concubines diminished, and the power dynamics within the harem shifted in favor of the royal wife. Egypt's interactions with foreign powers also played a role in this decline. Marrying foreign royalties to establish political alliances became a more common practice, reducing the reliance on foreign concubines. These royal marriages were seen as means of consolidating diplomatic relations without the need of extensive harems. The expansion of women's roles in Egyptian society affected the status and relevance of concubinage. Women began to hold positions of authority and influence in various fields, including politics and religion. As women gained prominence in other aspects of Egyptian life, the traditional practice of maintaining a large harem with numerous concubines became less essential. Religious and cultural shifts contributed to the decline as well. The veneration of certain deities, such as the goddess Hathor, who represented maternal and feminine qualities, contributed to the changing perception of women's roles. Pharaohs began to consolidate power within a smaller circle of trusted officials and advisors. The practice of having numerous concubines was no longer seen as a symbol of wealth or status, and the harem's influence waned as a result. As the centuries passed, the practice of concubinage in ancient Egypt gradually gave way to a more centralized and less diverse model of royal relationships. The focus shifted towards the great royal wife and the established elite families. While concubinage played a significant role in ancient Egypt's history, it ultimately became a relic of a bygone era, reflecting the ever-changing dynamics of the Egyptian society and culture. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the world of ancient Egyptian concubines. If you found this topic as intriguing as we did, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. For more captivating insights into the tapestry of history, check our previous videos. Until next time.